So y'all heard District 2 starts in Newport Beach and runs north from there. So most likely none of you in this room, or very few of you, would be able to vote for me in District 2. But your representative on the County Board of Supervisors is running unopposed. So if you don't know who she is, it's Lisa Bartlett. She is endorsed by the Republican Party, so it's not likely she's going to come to a Dem Club meeting and talk to you about the County Board of Supervisors. So Annie graciously extended an invitation for me to come down and talk to you about some of the big issues in Orange County that we have some control over at the County Board of Supervisors. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and the race that I'm running, but I'm not going to dwell on that since you guys can't vote for me. I want to really focus more on the issues and answer any questions that I can for you. But just to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm running, again, my name's Brendon Perkins. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. Most of you have heard of Flint, Michigan these days, right? What do you hear about Flint these days? Water. Yeah, but the real story is bad government. Before you have bad water, you have bad government. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Flint, to my parents' generation, was not a place where they had bad water or bad government per se. It was a place of opportunity. It was a place where people came from all over the country to get a good paying job with nothing more than a high school education. In fact, all of my aunts and uncles worked for General Motors on the line. It was a place you could walk out of high school with a diploma, fill out an application, the next day you would have a job for life on the assembly line of General Motors. Both sets of my grandparents also worked for General Motors, and not only did they all have good paying jobs, but they also had good retirements from General Motors as well. But by the time my generation came along, all of that had changed. All of the jobs had dried up. Not one single one of my cousins ended up working for General Motors or in any of the auto factories in Flint. For me, I had a good head on my shoulders. At the age of 16, I entered into a national science competition, which I won, and I was able to parlay that into a job with NASA, where I worked for 15 years. And while I worked for NASA, I was able to travel around the country, and I discovered this gem of a community that we all know as Orange County. And so it became my dream to live here one day. And then in 2006, I was able to move here with my partner of 22 years. Now we've been married for 4 years since the marriage laws changed in California. But one of the things that I was kind of primed to see when I moved to Orange County was the deficiencies in our county government and a lot of our local government, city governments as well. One of the things I started to notice was that we were really disconnected from our county government and our county board of supervisors in particular. If you had gone around and asked any of you prior to the 2016 election, and I had asked you who your supervisor was on the county board, I doubt that many of you would have been able to name that individual. Surprises me how many people actually know today, but quite frankly, the people in this room actually know more than the general public, so we still have a lot of work to do. So that's part of the reason why I decided to run for County Board of Supervisors. I've been an activist in the HB Huddle for a year and 3 months and have been going around educating people on local government and the County Board of Supervisors, and was also encouraging a lot of people to run for local office. And one of the messages that I want to impart with all of you is, although it's too late to get in the race for County Board of Supervisors, we still have lots of time for people to get in local city county races. And what people need to understand is those people who run for those offices are going to come from this room for your local offices, right? They're not just going to come out of the woodwork, they're going to come from this room because you guys are the ones who are active in your community. You guys are the ones who your neighbors are counting on to help educate them and to understand what your city governments and your county governments are like. And you really are starting to be in tune with the issues if you weren't before the 2016 election. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to think about running for local office. I know there's that little voice in your head that says, oh, I'm not qualified. And trust me, I had that same voice in my head before I decided to run. It just got to the point where I noticed that our County Board of Supervisors and our city governments were not running as well as I had assumed that they were running. I used to think, oh, they can't be that bad. Well, actually they can be. And when you start following them, you find out not only can they be that bad, but they can be even worse than what you imagined prior to that. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. So that's part of the reason why I ended up running for County Board of Supervisors, because when I first started thinking about running, I was going to run for Huntington Beach City Council. And I started investigating the County Board of Supervisors, and one of the things I realized was that they were responsible for all the big issues that we have in Orange County. So what would you guys say is the biggest issue that you're hearing about in Orange County right now? Homelessness. And what's that? Yeah, and the interesting thing about that issue is that issue squarely falls on the County Board of Supervisors. They're the ones that have all the resources to deal with the issue. And not only that, even though cities do have a part to play, we need a county solution. Cities cannot implement solutions on their own, because what happens is homeless people migrate to those areas when cities do more than the surrounding communities, and so we need a countywide solution. And one of the things that we learned recently was that our County Board of Supervisors had $700 million sitting there that they did nothing with to solve the problem.